to us about that.
Sure. So what is transhumanism? Transhumanism is an ideology, I would argue, that attempts to take human beings and use science and technology, including medical technology, not just to heal the sick, but to make the well, quote unquote, better than well. So using science and technology to try to take normal, healthy human beings and make them bigger, faster, stronger, smarter, using gene editing, using pharmaceuticals, using technologies where basically we combine our own biological material with computers, with robotics. And this is an ideology that is especially influential in Silicon Valley. And there's interesting technologies in the pipeline that could be used for both purposes, both for healing the sick, but also for trying to engage in so-called human enhancement. And while I am all in favor of healing the sick, and I think that's an appropriate use of medical technology, if we can use something like a Neuralink implant in the brain to take someone with a spinal cord injury and help their brain communicate with their body so that they can walk again, that's obviously a wonderful and beautiful sort of healing enterprise. But using the same Neuralink technology to hook my brain up to a computer cloud in the sky, I think is a more dicey proposition.
Yeah.
And ultimately, if you drill down deeply enough on the ideology of transhumanism, you see that the end goal of the transhumanists is not just making people bigger, faster, stronger, and smarter, but actually the end goal of transhumanism is to make people quite literally live forever. And there's various proposals about how we're going to do this, how we're going to sort of recreate the human body so that it never dies, or there's these kind of strange fantasies about maybe someday we'll be able to upload the contents of our consciousness into some computer cloud in the sky, and then our consciousness will live forever in another piece of hardware. I think these things are metaphysically impossible, let's say, on a Christian understanding of the human person. Our body and soul are, intimately intertwined and can only be separated at death, and will be reunited at the last day in the resurrection of the body. So I think these fantasies are not something that's ultimately ever going to be achievable. But I think they tell us a lot about the movement, because what is any movement that's aimed at living forever is by definition, I think, a religion, right? Why is transhumanism popular in a secular culture? Because it taps into religious aspirations that cannot be eradicated from the human heart. Augustine said that God created us for himself, and our hearts are restless until they rest in him. So if we live in a culture where those religious longings are not fulfilled because people do not encounter the gospel of Jesus Christ, those longings don't go away and disappear, right? As Bob Dylan used to say, you're gonna worship somebody. So people end up worshiping money or sex or power or any other number of idols and false gods. But that longing to live forever, that longing to somehow thwart death, which, the answer to that, of course, is found in Christ, as we just talked about, in his passion, his death, and his resurrection and ascension into heaven. But if you don't have that, well, where do you go with that desire? Now there are people promising that science and technology can save us. Science and technology can make you live forever. And so that's a seductive proposition to people living in a secular culture, because just atheistic materialism does not satisfy the human heart. People are going to look for a substitute, and the danger is their substitute is going to be a counterfeit coin, which is, I think, what transhumanism is. The danger of transhumanism is that if you take an ideology that's based on false premises, what happens is not only do you fail to achieve the purpose or the end that you're aiming at, and you sort of end up in the same place. What happens is not only do you fail to achieve that end, you actually end up in the exact opposite of the place that you wanted to go. So my worry about transhumanism is not only is it not going to be enhancing and make us, happier or more healthy or more flourishing as human beings, it's actually going to be dehumanizing, right? Because it's treating human beings as machines that can be sort of reprogrammed and reconfigured at will. It's attempting to recreate ourselves, so it's displacing the role of God the Creator and attempting to play God in that way. And it's also, if you take it again to its own stated conclusion, it's also attempting to play the role of Redeemer. Yeah. And if there's one human project that's doomed to failure and to misery, it's the attempt to redeem ourselves.
So true.